Welcome to the audiobook of Spangling Darkness by Raphael Block. You'll hear 44 poems and the Occidental Community Choir singing When I Look to the Stars, composed by Sarah Saulsbury. The book itself has 5 songs and 8 wonderful illustrations by Clare Allen of London. And you'll find it on my website at raphaelblock.com. Enjoy.
Spangling Darkness. Lama Shvaktani, why, oh why did you abandon me? In the silence of the tomb he lay, or let's just say his body did. For that extreme when we can simply stand no more opens a door. The cries of a lover betrayed snapped chords as he hurled himself into the spangling darkness. One caress by the infinite, balm enough for living. A firm tugging, there's more to be done, spun him back into that body in the silence of the tomb. 2 more nights and day, how stretched he lay between those countless moments. The stinging wounds almost knout to the scarring of his heart. Those mocking jeers still ringing in his ears, pale beside his realization of our weaknesses and fears. And when, as warm, fresh-baked bread, he slid out scented from that oven, Magdalene gasped, squealing in delight, "You've risen!" followed by a long embrace. He re-entered this arena, a cross between boxer and lover, punching, feinting, darting, weaving, dancing, melting our denseness and defenses. Concealed. And then above, a squadron of some 30 longbeaks swoops, speeding over the waves in a fluttering V, before banking inland along the rich Estero. In their wake the coastline takes me to 2 stationary figures watching a wave of tan-rounded forms, just a little darker than the sand, huddled on the spit. Most lie still as logs. Occasionally a body undulates towards the water, rounded rear in the air. Others change positions among their close-knit clan. A few heads bob at sea. Periodically on raised periscopic necks, 3 pairs of eyes swivel towards us. Quizzical, curious, checking for danger. Those soft orbs from the mysterious depths. Back along the shore, washed-up wood resembles seals, and from bleached trunks, liquid irises peer at the odds and ends of my humanity. The great winter wood pellet rush of '07. Dropped the broom in mid-sweep, grabbed my breakfast bowl, forgot all else, and left home. A rush of adrenaline drawing me to the store, a fever kindled in the instant of that call. Come for those bags while they last. Dashing in, wondering, how many dare I ask for? 6? 10? Paid for the goods, precious seconds ticking by, cars revving in the yard lined up for that last pallet. 5 bags apiece quieted all questions. The hurried, satisfying thumps landing in the truck. Driving away with the catch, feeling triumphant in taking so much, more than my need. Perhaps the price is higher than the tallest pines, lower than the earth's fiery bowels, wider than our appetites, as slender as the bonds that bind us here. And what if that same fever, that same unfulfillable need were to grip and drive me to the heaped pallets of truths sitting unsold in my own backyard? Heaven. I dreamed that you were no longer judging me on my heart's murmurings, but on how well I'd cleaned the fridge freezer, not just the outer doors or the salad compartments, but both sides of the grungy, smeared, stained glass, and all the dark nooks and crannies where I'd stored assorted batteries, egg dyes, cat antibiotic, and cloning gel for profuse rooting. And on how I'd clean the kitchen cooker, not just the rings and trays, or even the oven racks and sides, and around the wires leading to the light that no longer works, but also whether I'd scraped and chiseled the congealed blackened spills mounting under the top. And when you'd inspected them from top to bottom, I saw you placing everyone in cells, apartments, condos, and grand houses, according to their station and destination. Looking at me, you scratched your head and shuffled me off to a large stable where thousands gathered in all conditions, heaving and lowing, braying and bleating, crowing, singing and grazing. On waking, I felt cold steel bars, and the fading barn reeked of heaven. Death's Fisher. Black feet stately glide, small ripples barely sound. Bead-like eye leads softly snaking nape, each footfall yielding greater sight. Black foot stately glide, slender white coiled neck, tightly sprung stabs release, quick silvery glint, twirls in stunning beak, rapid toss, pulsing gullet, one-way descent, black feet stately glide. The Conductor. As his hands bring down with sweat and attentiveness that which is poised, waiting to be plucked from the inaudible and invisible, intertwined with the lattice of our receptivity into a supple sound tapestry, so seem weavers of matter. And are we not then all weavers? Enmeshed. Look at that web almost burying the plant in the pot. How on earth did it get there? It's straddling the pointed tips of our succulent. Your tea's getting cold. And it's cradling some of the dead uns. Yes. And have you noticed how the colour, deep green in its centre, changes all the way to orange and yellow at the edges, where the tiniest maroon thorns stick out? You know, it looks a bit like an onion bulb. Well, I'm reading about global warming. Do you think it hears the bird song? Why not? What about those trapped dead shoots, old flower head and veined insect wings locked in its strands? There's no spider in sight and no visible prey. It's like an intricate structure abandoned by its creator. Well, did you know the North Pole's shifting 1/4 of a mile every single day? Oh, right by the pot's edge is a new green shoot. Must be its offspring. I wonder if it hears the trilling, feels wet drops, sun's ray in a new way. There are an awful lot of very concerned people. See these older wizened leaves peering over the edge. Perhaps they remember what lies beyond. The home. Heart thumping, his reptilian bones soak up the heat as he readies for the journey. Rising up on shaky legs he shuffles. Slippered feet trail across the chasm floor like fleeting summer clouds. Haltingly he hears the wind creaking and whistling through his lungs. Limbs clenched, he reaches the threshold, turns by degrees. Backing, he grasps the rest, lowers himself with a dull thud onto the seat. Through panting, parched lips outpour, "Kids are long gone. Thank you, Lord, for keeping me one more day away from that home." Other than here. Most of my life I'm drawn to places other than here. Of course, in hungry youth I needed to travel there. Throughout adulthood, thoughts and desires propel into the stratospheres. Or am I led by an invisible noose? Affects fling into fierce mountain passes, battling tribes, precipitous chasms. Memories magnetically sway towards fading, frayed flowers. Occasionally I visit here, when stunned by a sudden scent, sound, or sight of a bush or a bird or a look. Or when emotions sputter into tears, and between the cracks of defeat and relief, fresh vistas appear. When feelings zing at the amazing beings planted about an unblinkered view. But how long can I bear to touch here, smell here, re-find here, before drifting off anew? Daffodils. When those sunlings burst out each year, I say, I will plant more next season. And sometimes I do, and mostly I don't. But there are a few gladdening hearts in the garden. A vine given by a friend has taken years to yield small, sweet, yellowy green grapes. The calla lilies, too, have been slow in expanding, one or two garnered here and there, reclaimed from a neighbour's waste. And what if I did sow mounds, and a spurting splash blinded the eye? Would I be any the happier? when a single flowering, then withering, spurs with such force. Closed agenda. What if your beloved said to you, "You are only as close to me as you are to that cat," and you admired her from a distance, petted and fed her, heard her battering and scratching the screen door for admittance in the night, could even convince yourself you liked her, but would you truly miss her? Well, you do suffer from allergies. At times thought, "Isn't she sweet?" but hated her bringing in bloody gopher carcasses almost daily. And you knew you'd continue to go through the motions unless a door slammed shut or opened, or a voice inside cried, "Does she really ask for so much?" Finally you see her curled blissfully fetal, crumpling your agenda. Your Majesty. After A Horse Frightened by a Lion, 1770, by George Stubbs. Deep rumbling roar, earth tremors, blazing eyes, gaping jaw, closer, closer, within a leap, petrified spine, hair on nape erect, prone I stay. Waking I feel shame. Was it cowardice? Did I miss the king? And so this muscled, pale white stallion, cowering tail between frozen, non-rearing legs, mane screaming about that mighty neck, locks flying, ears prostrate, glazed eye, mute nostril, limp dried lip, body bowed before majesty. How do you meet your power, your fate? New Year. Our celebrations were small affairs, with one or two present at most. Like the welcome my wife and daughter gave the new year, with carefully prepared round sand-filled trays, candles of all shapes and heights arranged until the moment ignited and light generously swirled and flowed out and in our eyes linked in wonder. Or the birthdays of simple homemade stirrings of cake, smiles and wings. Now they fill my dark nights with soft flickerings. The kiss. What if your whiteness shrivels to brown, and your inner core host of so many insect friends begins to change into large green interlinked cases, like a turtle or a pineapple shell? The top of your yellow stamen shrinks to burning black, while your seed pods swell, filling your body with heavy fruit, until one day your weight bears you down to the ground, where you lie prostrate with longing. Your kernels, now yellow, turn into gold and tunnel the earth. So half merged you're waiting for them to soften and sag, letting your pale seeds slip out of their amniotic sacs and seal the kiss. Bells. No bells ringing, No incense burning, no one but you. No spoken sounds, no embracing arms, no one else but you. Inner voices buzzing, deepening breathing, you're coming to you. With or without stilling, something is flowing. You're entering a cavern resounding of echoes beyond. What will you bring when you return? Figments of darkness, bursts of light? Or perhaps just you, hued a little larger? Soft night. Soft night-piercing screech, the pair work the field, back and forth beat silent wings, echo soft skirls. As one stands sentinel aloft the ridge, high-pitched messages persist. Flushing field mice, gophers, voles from peaceful nests. Forswear your life to mightier intent, they shrill, until their prey is wrung. When I look at the stars. When I look at the stars, I hardly know their names. The upturned W, a dragon's tail. I just stare and stare at their starriness. Countless worlds scattered in bright patterns and curves, emitting stories that travel light years to return us to ourselves. Curious, really, I might have told the cat beside me, her marvellously arching back and curling tail coiling and dipping. Or the crickets, their quiet ringing under and overtones constellating lunar rhythms. Or the twinkling airplane lights, rapidly gobbling night's canvas. Or the tingling chill on my cheek gnawing into bones. Or the sudden scuttle in the brush. But I didn't. I slipped them all into my pocket and brought them inside to share with you. Out of this world. Fleshy, furry strawberries wallow, nectarine yellow, peachy skins drifting, small banana fish lazily among gallia melon. Overflowing Milky Way, far-flung blueberry stars ricochet across a bowl of cosmic kindness. Outflanked. Way before I clapped eyes on it, my hand instinctively reached for the flank of a beast rearing through surging waves. He was skinny, tired, almost drowned, yet unbowed. I have long suffered your neglect, now at last you begin to feel me. Climb up, astride my back you'll gallop like the wind. Together we'll take off. Sensing me hesitate, he growled, just mount. I will do the rest, for I am stamping my feet in the ground of your being. this ache. For you, my ache's antennae are constantly combing, monitoring, marking. For you, this ache's fluttering fibrillates with sinuous waves. For you, this ache is a condor without prey, endlessly scanning scarred horizons. For you, this ache is a fire, knows no bounds, leaps canyons, lights on sharp crags, outer shells crack under red-hot marbled waves. For you, my ache pours blood-thick tears. Ode to my mother. You fought as a woman in a man's land whose tongue you barely spoke. An artist at heart, between husband and kids, you painted, potted, and drew. Your need to draw lessons from everything drove me nuts when I was young. Yet I too became a teacher. So much of you is carved inside me, seeds of beauty, seeds of darkness, all longing for light and rest and peace, even those that never made it. You crossed the Mediterranean alone with your 2 young boys to see the Acropolis and Pompeii, telling us to play on deck while you, though miserably seasick, kept a watchful eye, helping us off a small boat in Limassol. Locked out of a hotel room in France, you enticed a slender porter to crawl through a narrow window until we heard a triumphant voila. For years you anguished over your youngest, whose wings were clipped by schizophrenia, how you would move heaven and earth to help him, were it in your power to do so, and you did. Your roundful laugh at your husband's oft-repeated jokes, your fiery indignation when righting a wrong, your steadfast rule of kitchen and home, all dwarf my niggling annoyances at being so close to you. I swore that I would never be like you, and I wasn't, and I am. Fallen fruit. I have fallen in love again. I know this because I find myself resting in a patch on the fallen cracked trunk, old, rounded, and open, and following you over the bank as you slowly sweep across the field. A cat's mew from her den away in the blackberry bushes follows me, as she beds herself on a molehill or hayed furrow, rolls over into a you-know-what-I-want-you-to-do position, slants her closed eyes, earthy, purring, pumping limbs stretching twice as long as the day, blisses out while I scratch her favorite spots. Pausing under a tree, picking and sniffing through the gravensteins, yellow skin splashed with magenta drip, firm formfuls of breathtaking smells, a dull thud draws me to the next. Stooping to pick the prize, darkened reds on pale yellow ground, the promise of a rough, crunchy taste, a branch stays my shirt. Caught by the crook of the neck, I struggle and break into a chuckle. It's you I want. Snag me over and over again. The cockerel's call. I place my face against your smooth wet trunk and plant a kiss, my body resting in you, listening to sweet water symphonies. Clear droplets hammock and sloop along your limbs, slowly gaining roundness, weight, momentum, then release. A furry tongue deftly licks curled leafy tips. E-e-e-e-e, e-e-e-e-e, scoops into morning's mountain, barely ruffling a bottomless bag of grain. When a chill sea wind swirls in and starts to flirt with reddening leaves, gusting streams of dusty earth, and berries droop and sour, apronfuls of apple sunset skirts soften and brown, insect friends abound, buzzing busily one final fling around the sugared vine, while hosts of unacknowledged spirits weave greens into kindred rainbow colours. As if from nowhere, speeding clouds spring and sweep across the sun's face, now wanly lit. Small birds magnetically bestir, circle tightly, loudly summoning for lengthy flight. The poplar and eucalyptus bow and bend their frizzled clumps, bunched brown heads of Queen Anne's lace filled to the brim with seed, and we, like early September pumpkins, are rushed and boxed in the stores. Then perhaps the signs point to a time of seeded contemplation, one fresh fallen leaf held up to the light casts a spell breaking my day's petty betrayals, reflects a tree whose branches and branchlets spread a filigree beyond all golden wealth. Beached. Thick tubes with cone-like rubbery ends, swollen amber sacs, dark serrated leaves, smooth purple stringy browns, briny stench, frazzled strands snake in and out, wrapped up in themselves. A complex mass, a glorious mix of convoluted tales. Some harshly broken, many leading down aisles we would never wish to return. Some salty and bitter run rough under our fingers. Some smoothed in the manifold retelling. Some still slippery and fresh or creepy, irresistibly drawing us into their tentacles, or grating like a rasp with sharp, rippling ridges, or slimy as jelly, attracting swarming flies to a putrid feast. These tangled masses, like stranded whales, wait for the turning tide to take, swill, sway, rock, caress, and unravel us. Nets. There. The nurse slips the IV into the vein. I gaze at the network on the back of my hand. It stands out so clearly and flows into the filigree net belt of brown winter vine crawling up the freeway overpass columns, now dormant, stretching in 100,000 tiny branchlets with no hint of summer's bushy carpet, to the carved estero channels at low tide, silted matrix for herons, egrets, mussels, oysters, clams, spreading out with the flat flowing manta rays beyond the lace play on the full moon's face, scanning your eyes, your veined eyeballs for fleeting emotions, until the warmth of your gritty voice gently orders, "Just hold me, honey, just hold me." Onlooker. I was just a passer-by, never really looked or saw the thin-ribbed critter on the far side of the muddy field, until my daughter took me into his arena. Slowly we get to know each other. I curry his coat the way she showed me, firm, gentle, round curves over ribs and rills and mounds of muscle. My fingers following his skin, brushing in long, smooth strokes, noting changes in his hair's direction, ovoid belly, hinged runner's legs. As he guzzles his favourite grain, lips and tongue rhythmically churning it into bluish mush, I clean out the water tank, then take my leave with alfalfa treats. Now he whinnies softly at my approach. My young one often sees what I don't. A neglected four-legged living on bare pasture with buckets of love. Carly's coin. The Berlin Wall loomed large while a child in London, its numinosity haunting my dreams, with tales of families fleeing from east to west, sometimes miraculously making it, more often impaled in the attempt. East Berlin depicted as a desert of fear-filled conformity, while West Berlin a wild Harlem flowing with milk and honey. When the wall came tumbling down, swept by a freedom tsunami, shock waves ricocheted around the world, akin to the Twin Towers, the flip side of Carly's coin, her belt of 1,000 swinging skulls, chiming with each step she dances, stamping or erasing our embraced illusions. When I was young and proud. When I was young and proud, owner of a lawn, it would have caused offence. But now singing dandelions innocently declare summer's height, while couched between thrive purple petal lights, morning glory untouched by the whirring blade of notions. For Queen Anne's lace and soft bare feet to sink and rise with violet green swallows' first chirruping flights. Just when you think it's over. Just when you think it's over, that there's nothing more, that you've dealt with it, your body raises a ruckus, kicking and screaming, "You're killing me!" And those unwanted children and grandchildren run amok, tipping acid inside your guts. Your mind taunts. How can you act like such a baby? While your millions of years reply, all you need do is feel. Not rid, resolve, sweep under the rug, just fully feel. Finally, you're forced to admit, okay, there's room. And in that room resounds a long exiled cry. Buffet. Grey, bespectacled, middle-aged, light streaks of kindness first drew one near. Kids and adults, and boy, there were plenty. Snippets and snatches revealed 3 children, 2 grown, the youngest adopted, mentally impaired, elderly parents in a nearby home, a husband, migraines, pains rarely shared. Haven't you got a lot on your plate? One day I suggested. Oh, that, she chuckled wryly, went years ago. First it turned into a platter, then a buffet. Celebration. Slices of chatter, cookies of laughter as bread, jam and butter pass between. Bubbles of thoughts glide and rise. Sips of smiles expand surprise. Brush of lips and crumbs, sparkling eyes. Touch of hands, a wish, the sweetness of this. Ground to a pulp. Been stood on my feet for hours, washing dishes, cooking, washing more dishes, not counting the shopping on the way home. And yes, I'm bound to end the day washing dishes. There's only the 2 of us, yet plates and cups magically sprout on countertops, tables, easy chairs. Chores used to be something to rush through ASAP to more urgent things like movies, email, you name it. Now, while slowly wading through tiredness and water, I settle. Child's absorbed in homework, cat's content. This is a good task. I am doing well to serve the moment. What's more important? A sweep of galaxies. So different was this shore after winter's beatings, so different. Sandbanks collapsed, washed away, restacked. Wooden walkways crumpled, upended trunks tossed like straws. The waves race in, following their own rhyme, etching, erasing, double folds of time. Each wet step slides into a pool of liquid glass, as thousands of particles awake, rapidly whirling into a vortex, surging, merging in ocean's lap, trailing long white frothing jean strings. A sweep of galaxies, a moment's trace, a dance of 3-toed feet, a damp imprint, fluttering of wings. Spring. With a whoop and a fling, blossoms she brings, singing, "It's April, it's April, it's April." Pop out to see my purple tablecloth billow, waves of songbird on branches and twigs, pink and white bursts. Step lively too falls rattling shells, crows flap and gab, buzzing wings and legs. Under the gliding moon, owls beat the meadow, blazing with thirst. 8-stalk silken eyes sip my million morning pearls. Mute millennial. We gape at the wall, the mall, tall towers, twin flowers, deserted lots, hot spots, fantasy lovers. Alone, eyes inward, her writhing belly ripples, feet brace, teeth on edge, gasping furnace red, beads of sweat pouring, contraction after contraction grip her throat. We goggle at the wall, the pall, heroes, faces, stained spots, neighbours, hoped-for saviours. Alone, eyes inward, her writhing belly ripples, waves of groans circle her globe. Wired. First she had to heave up mountains, then cool her blood with ice and wait a little while for rock to tumble, shatter, allow her glacier plough to rake the valleys out, until the last few seconds, so they say, we came and settled, built dry walls up to the crags, scattered sheep to eat forest shoots, and so came pasture. And still her brooks course through her veins, lilting and sighing and spinning their ways into lake and sea, as she tilts quietly ominous, egg timer wired to our words, feelings, thoughts, weighing whether to flip it over, or, like the show with too small an audience, simply close the stage. Was it writ? Was it writ that first she set her winds to whistle, spiralling round, bringing all weathers? Second, through mist, fog, and fern sortied the soft whistling owl. Third, shepherd in tone to his sharp-eared friend, fetching the lost from bog and fen. Fourth, thundered our jets. Fifth, deafening silence. Sixth, ructions and ripples convulse. Or might we funnel absolute energies, swivelling like a deer's ears towards the source of sounds? Furies calm, quakes subside, walls of hate crack. We laugh at our pettiness, a never-before dance begins to spin. Embrace. Chest pressed against its strand-like trunk, arms loosely wrapped around its matted bark, his being rapidly whirled, an elevator dropping 20 floors, or the steepest water-slide descent, without jolt, just a sensation of soft flames, eddying reeds in a river set against a moonless night. He could not tell whether these flames or sinews were those of the tree bringing him in, or of his own fibrous being. They continued flowing, fading as the darkness deepened, not quite pitch, an undying pool. It lasted a few untallied moments before he allowed his arms to drop, stepped back, and with a bow took leave, his body marked with an invisible imprint. This was simple to step into, like a pair of well-loved shoes left lying untouched about the house. Old and delved. Dappling, flaking, silvery brown, cracked, pecked, wholly cleft trunk, limbs hanging by a thread. Thicket of an old, unpruned apple tree, rich leafy mould stewing in your mossy base, home to maggots, earwigs, beetles. 100 years of hollowing to bear everything sweet fruit. 100 years of hollowing to bear everything sweet fruit. The Inverness Ridge Fire. 15 years ago this fall, fire swept along the ridge. All night I watch cackling flames leap wildly from hill to hill as people's homes intruding on pine-clad slopes succumbed quickly to its red-hot breath. Thousands of hands attempted to staunch this fierce fertility rite, like a cyclical outpouring ejecting billions of seeds into soft blackened folds. Sounds of choppers warned of war as they dropped and scooped from the bay, discharging their watery cargo at the front. Under a dawning sun I stood at its flaming edge, heat blasting up from the valley, prickling and tingling my skin. Bishop pines hurled searing balls of sap, like slingshots or missiles whistling to their kin, who in turn joined the furnacing procession. On that brink, in that moment, the pungency and crushing roar mesmerized corneas, superheated senses, ignited my heart as ardent tongues licked at my feet, hissing, "Why resist?" Along the bay, little remains of the charred skyline, tall green offspring bear new witness. While picking huckleberries on its hillsides, enjoying their gentle breasted descent, or nestling my face in honeysuckle, I sometimes glimpse hers, unveiled, leaping along the ridge, hair wildly streaming where she wills. Moth Behemoth. Cecropia behemoth lying in the road, your fine feather-like antennae and massive wings spanning east to west. Furry brown body upon stout brown legs, undercarriage to a glory of painted panels. Here Seminole and Algonquin in wood and bead found delicacy of line, subtle color fusion. The Navajo Nation stunningly intricate dye design. Pomo, Miwok, painstakingly wrought, big-hearted basketry. Acoma, sacred, secret, dazzling patterned clay. Let me lift you on a leaf for our coming journey. Your rare magnificence is fanning out, lightening away. Between the two shores, cloud shadows sweep underfoot, whisking sand streamers snake low, yet this is no desert. Waves continuously conceive along the shore, gulls, sanderlings eye each crest retreat, plucking mollusks in razor beaks. Around the curved walls of the Estero's womb, seals softly bark, brown pelicans rise and dive, spread-eagled wings glide just a few feet to fish for catch we cannot see. This is Eden's garden, we are in its play. Why do I visit so infrequently? And Earth spoke. Pray for forgiveness and ask before you act. Wait for my answer. Only then can I subtract what is necessary for life, your life, to continue to grow.
When I look at the stars, I hardly know their names. The upturned W, a dragon's tail. I just stare and stare. Beside me.